I'd also like to thank you for allowing me into your homes for this 4th episode of Season 4 of Esoteric Science Roundtable. And I want to start by making a few quick announcements. I want to begin by thanking Chris Ritter from the Trailer Park Show for digging up a really, really old hunk of footage featuring myself at one of the Second Amendment rallies that took place about 4 years ago. And I had a shirt that I put together with a marker that says, "I dig chicks with guns," and I wore that around. And so I want to thank her for digging that out and playing that. That was definitely a blast from the past, and can't help but love the Trailer Park Show. Let's see. Also, today is a Mayan calendar day, and I think we lost our graphics. We've been having difficulty with the generator down here, and I think they just took off on us, so we'll see how that works out. But today is a Mayan day, is what's called a portal day in the Mayan calendar, and that's a day that offers extra benefits or extra opportunities for added energy, added intent to be set and put in place, and just a better opportunity for initiating projects or getting more bang for your buck, in a sense, if you want to look at it in those terms. And so we're in the second stretch of a 10-day stint of so-called portal days. So this is a very good time to start a project or just tap into energies that would not otherwise be so readily available by virtue of this little line of portal days, so-called, that again add for added emphasis and can be like a little booster, if you will, a little added energy, a little booster for us in our daily affairs. Also want to remind folks that next Wednesday is the Metaphysical Philosophical meeting at Opal Divines. We have those each and every third Wednesday. Well, there we go. Each and every third Wednesday of the month, and this particular third Wednesday falls on the 17th. It's Opal Divine, 6th and Rio Grande. We always meet at 8 p.m. upstairs. Very casual, very free, very relaxed atmosphere. We here at Esoteric Science Roundtable and the fine folks at Therefore I Am, Jeff Contreras and crew co-host these meetings, again, every third Wednesday of the month. And if you're interested in the shows, the subject matter that we discuss, and you have something that you care to discuss with us, or something that you've researched on your own, you care to bring to our attention, by all means, please take the opportunity to come on down and add your 2 cents worth if you feel so inclined. Again, 8 p.m. Till whenever people decide to leave, upstairs, Opal Divines. Let's see. Okay, one last quick thing. Today is Veterans Day, as many of you know, and I do want to give a thanks to veterans that have served either in the armed forces in whatever capacity, and especially those people that have served in a combat function. I want to give a special thanks to Don Darling and the Veterans for Peace group here in Austin that I think have done a tremendous job in bringing a lot of attention from the perspective of veterans to a lot of the injustices of war, and they're working fervently to abolish war at all levels, and that's very commendable, and I support their efforts, and I think they're good guys. So I want to remind folks to remember veterans, whether or not you are a fan of any of the conflicts, current or previous. I think it's still very worthwhile to consider the sacrifices made by men and women for a belief system. You know, that they fought and died in some cases for the American ideal, and that is something that, and freedom, and so that is something that is worthy of all of our efforts, whether we're here domestically or out abroad doing our thing. So again, thanks to the veterans. Today's topic for discussion, I've called today's show Unwinding. And the main reason I wanted to touch upon that theme is because there seems to be a tremendous amount of unwinding going on from many levels. It's a multifaceted kind of unraveling that's taking place simultaneously across the globe that's allowing for really quick change to take place. And I think this is only going to be a sign of things to come in the upcoming future, that we've allowed the proper agitators to take root and set themselves up and put themselves in place to be, again, an example I used weeks past, like the burr underneath the saddle of the burro, and it's an agitator. It's something that continuously is causing, unease, agitation, and it's going to have to be sought out and dealt with at some point in time to remove the irritation or the agitation and to get past that uneasiness. And so what's gone on recently, obviously, with the results of the presidential election, once again, a very highly contested presidential race, and still the contention and the division is still there. And so it's definitely something that is worth consideration in the context of how things pan themselves out. Now, certainly a lot of people are going to be still upset. There's even the most extreme example I heard of, which, and I'm glad there was only one example that I myself was familiar with, and that is of a person that was a Kerry supporter that ended up buying a gun and going to Ground Zero in New York and shooting himself because that was his method of protest. And so I think, fortunately, that extreme has been to a minimum, and I think that's a good reflection of the way in which people are coping with or dealing with the situation, even though their candidate may not have won. And so ultimately the way I tend to look at this presidential election is the better bonesman won, or the better skull and bones representative was coronated. So that's something that's definitely worthy of consideration. Again, whether or not you felt like you had a real choice in the matter or not. And this is something that I myself thought Kerry would win, and I was basing my surmise or my premonition, prediction, whatever, on the history. And I was just trying to go by history, the fact that those with the most royal blood in their veins have been selected or appointed our leaders in the past. And so I thought that would just follow suit, nice and easy, and that Kerry would be just as able to carry out the plans of those that wish to enslave us as the next person would. But the way it shook out was that Bush did become appointed, and I'll use that term, and he's going to be serving 4 more years. And so that is going to provide its own unique opportunities for individuals. And I would really encourage people that are discouraged and disillusioned by the results of the election to not just stick your head in the sand, not just feel like a sore loser, not think the end of the world is near, but start to think about practical things that can be done, applicable things that can be done from your perspective that you can add to our humanity that would improve our lot, rather than being a sore loser, or conversely those that I've seen take the opposite tone and be very much gloating over the fact that Bush won, and being kind of smug and just really pleased with themselves as a result, looking at it as if it were a football game or something along those lines. And so that unfortunately is a pretty predominant attitude by a lot of folks in the nation. And so the sooner that, I definitely feel the sooner that people can get past the divisiveness of the election and start to get together on real issues. The elections, for those that are more informed and more intuitive, the elections have never been about the faces of the candidates so much as what they actually represent. What are their ideals? What do they really stand for? What are they really trying to get across? And so standing on the issues first and foremost, I feel like has always been, those more responsible, intuitive individuals have always looked at the issues first and looked at the individual second, or not at all in some cases. And so I think to be cautious in that sense is worthy of consideration. Now, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be expending a lot of time and energy and effort on trying to prove in no uncertain terms that the election was stolen. And these are Kerry supporters that are looking at the numbers, and they're doing a lot of statistical analysis, mathematical, statistic mathematical analysis, and trying to determine, in a case where, for instance, there's only, let's say, 300 people registered to vote, and you get 3,000 people that apparently or allegedly voted in those areas, in those cities. These are causing concern for individuals, and rightly so, but I just see that there are going to be a lot of people expending a tremendous amount of energy trying to, demonstrate, again, factually, that Kerry won the election and so therefore should be the president. I just cannot see things being overturned. Kerry was much more animated in his concession speech than I saw him the whole candidacy, during the whole run for presidency. So he conceded quite graciously, and from their perspective, there is no, there's no recourse, or there's no reason to try to second guess the results, and so they're going to let it stand as is. This again is it's very divisive for many. I can even recall the day of the election when the results came in. One of my coworkers came in with full mourning attire, and I was asking, "Hey, did you attend a funeral this morning? Is that why you weren't here?" And they were like, "Yeah, the country's." So I mean, that's the degree to which this has affected people, and it's I can't say that I don't blame certain people for getting emotionally charged over these issues, and feeling that with the current administration repeating another 4 years, that there's much more opportunity for many more injustices to take place, and that's the potential for that is very ripe, and so we have to be on our guard again. And those individuals, again, everybody can do something. Everyone has an interest in a certain area, in their own particular area in which they live, and they can start to do something of a grassroots nature in their area to try to alleviate. If you're against Bush, for instance, just take one policy that you are against and do something constructive. Either initiate some action, start an organization. Communication means are wide and varied these days, and there are a lot of ways to get a message out, and there are a lot of ways to drum up support for an idea or an issue. And so if you're feeling disenfranchised, perhaps pick one issue that you feel like you can do something about in your area, and try to work on that, and try to work out, and try to get some, some way in which you can vindicate, and resolve in your own minds what took place if you're feeling disenfranchised. Basically do something about it rather than just moan, or rather than just cry on your beer and just, feel sad about things. We have a lot of opportunity, and I think that again, the more people that just try to spend a lot of time rehashing the what ifs and trying to determine, the definite, distinct, numbers and things of that nature. I think they could be putting their time and energy to much more constructive ends if they so chose, and this will demonstrate itself as time pans out. Certainly the complexion of the Bush administration has changed pretty drastically. The cabinet, the main individual out is Ashcroft, and we've got in, as a result of that, we've got likely to be the next Attorney General will be Alberto Gonzales. And again, this is, if you just were looking at Ashcroft and just, face recognition kind of thing, and just when you saw the guy, you kind of got a little uneasy or whatever, and you thought, oh, this guy's bad news. Again, they're changing the faces up with this cabinet, and so I would ask people to not just, rest back and just say, oh, well, what now? We've got a minority person coming up into the position, and so certainly he'll be looking out for minorities' issues, and he'll be much more fair-handed, and he'll be, this, that, and the other, and people might be kind of lulled back to sleep to a certain degree. But this guy, Alberto Gonzales, he is the originator of the enemy combatant status. And he borrowed that from the North Vietnamese and their tactics that they employed during the Vietnam War, when they would not regard our troops and the aggressive troops against their area as soldiers. They would regard them as pirates and things of that nature, so that they could justify the means that they use, the torture and things of that nature. And so this is something that we've borrowed from the North Vietnamese that has been re-emphasized and repackaged for our citizens here in the States. And this is just something to consider. Also, the Don Evans, the Commerce Secretary, is likely going to be out if he hasn't already quit. Colin Powell is another potential person that might be on the outs. So again, the changing complexion of the cabinet, to me, it's more like a sports team lineup where, yes, this person, the center for this team, for this football team might be great, and he might have a lot of strong points, and he's a veteran, he's a seasoned pro, whatever. But you can replace him with the second string guy if need be. If this guy gets hurt, you bring in another guy, and he performs the same function. This, to me, is more so what's going on in actuality, although in this instance, Alberto Gonzalez is more of an architect than just someone that willingly goes along with policy and just rubber stamps things that he's been asked to implement. And so this Alberto Gonzalez is someone that we should be considering as far as his actions and what takes place in the context of the larger whole, certainly. And so one other thing I want to get back to is related to, and again, I'm going to be kind of all over the map here, so please bear with me. I want to touch on a Zogby poll that came out not too long ago, right around the time of the election, that 49% of the New Yorkers believe that 911, there was either prior knowledge or there was complicity with that incident. And that's a pretty substantial number. So you can say that almost half of the people in New York feel as though there was some kind of government knowledge or that they were involved at some level in the carrying out of that incident. And then just recently, a CNN poll, 89% of the respondents to that particular poll said that they felt that there was a cover-up with 911. There was some level of cover-up. And that in and of itself, whether it's a very minute cover-up in the poll takers' opinions, or not, nonetheless, those are very high numbers, are difficult to ignore. And the 49% comes from a Zogby poll. Zogby has usually been one of the more respected polls traditionally, and even the exit polls that the Zogby group was conducting during the election, or after the election, were showing by and large that Kerry again was Zogby thought that Kerry had over 300 electoral college votes when you only need 270. He was looking at him as having almost 60% of the popular vote, and so his Zogby still, to his credit, stuck by his contention that his numbers were right and that what he surmised about the exit polls is proper and correct. And it is interesting to note that a lot of mainstream news media outlets were saying, well, we've gotten an overwhelming number of Democratic exit poll response, and so there must be something askew with the numbers, even though you have just as many other, or more, if not more, talking heads saying that, oh, these exit polls are sterling. You can't. They're great. You really can get accurate information from people that actually voted. They voted. They're coming out of the polling place, and so they should theoretically be more accurate and give you a better representation of how the vote actually played out. And so very early on during the election, they were starting to say, well, we're getting so many of these pro-Kerry and Edwards exit pollers responding that there must be something wrong with this. This must not be right. And so that to me is very perplexing as well. But again, I would really caution folks, rather than just stewing in your own juices, think of something constructive and think of something positive you can do with your energies and efforts to alleviate the suffering of your fellow man, in spite of whether you feel we live in a dictatorship, a theocracy, or whatever you're feeling about the current situation. So there's, I honestly feel like there's a lot of hope in the future. That may sound strange, but I feel that with the choice of Bush as president and all of those implications, that there has been a choice by not just the people in the United States, but humanity in general. There's been an underlying, almost an unconscious choice, because certainly some people did consciously vote for Bush, and then many others, I think, unconsciously wanted him in even though they may have voted for Kerry and actively supported Kerry, I think that they may, and this is just kind of an overall sense I have, that there is a desire for a fast track, if you will, as far as precipitating world events and the fomentation of change that's coming, at a breakneck pace our way in many facets of our society. But I think that unconsciously, at the soul level, I think our humanity is very ready to see change take place. And so by virtue of that, by choosing the agitator, which is my term for Bush, and the Bush cabinet and the Project for the New American Century and all of that ideology that comes packaged with the Bush cabinet, that there was a willing choice, either consciously or unconsciously, for the agitator to make a reappearance so that more things can be accomplished along the lines of the fast track. And so I think that we've made the choice for the fast track. Again, a lot of things are going to continue to change. A lot of things are going to continue to be disrupted. And a lot of form, whether that be existing forms of government, the form nature that makes up a person's body, just all kinds of structures that have taken on some form in our society and in our world are being restructured at a very fast pace, at a breakneck pace. And so this is allowing for a lot of opportunity. Another thing that it's doing conversely is really, really scaring the heck out of a lot of people. I mean, there are people that I've talked to that have friends and acquaintances that have gone into therapy as a result of, Bush coming back into presidency, and just the whole weight of the world they're feeling is on their shoulders. And I can understand people feeling that way, and either, being really taxed along those lines to where they feel that they need some medication or therapy or something to ease their brittle minds right now, their tattered emotions, and some people, some people's fragile minds are at stake in this, and that's really unfortunate that it's these divisive issues and these crises that keep manifesting and keep showing themselves worldwide are causing so much inner turmoil. But that is kind of the nature of our humanity. We are a chaotic race, and that's part and parcel of our job as humans, is to work through the chaos and to have some kind of order. Now, certainly that concept has been absconded and apprehended by many individuals that don't have the best interest of the masses in mind. And so that's unfortunate as well. But nonetheless, at some point in time, there has to be some kind of an orderly system set into place that's going to be recognizing of sovereign individuals, sovereign nations, existing laws of nations, and be like a little neighborhood in a sense where, maybe, you don't always get along with the neighbor across the street, but they play their music too loud or something like that, but you live civilly. You're able to cohabitate in a civil manner. And that's my hope, is that people can carry the spirit of that forward. And so again, I do feel like that we have taken the fast track, and I think that's due really, again, to an unconscious moving, a soul moving, if you will, and that the emerging of the soul nature is what's really fomenting this under the scenes, and that in itself, the nature of the soul is ordered and is nonpartisan, is unbiased, doesn't pick favorites. It's like the sun; it shines on all individuals the same. It's something that's it's all inclusive, and it's again, anything that's divisive is not of the soul. And so, as the soul, nature of the soul, which is becoming more desirous in the minds of men, in the minds of nations across the world, that there's, I feel a definite resurgence of that impulse, that soul impulse, that you find individuals delving in at some level and trying to reorient themselves along a more spiritual understanding, and trying to, again, acknowledge this emerging soul energy that's coming forward. Certainly we have individual soul energies, and you can see examples of individuals that have that soul action enacted and ignited, and they are doing things to work for the benefit of humanity. There's also certainly a group soul or collective soul of humanity as well. And I see that shaking off a long rest in a sense and emerging into our consciousness, certainly our unconscious first initially, and then it will make its way more into the mainstream understanding of men. And I think ultimately in the near term, the fact of the soul will be proven scientifically in addition to these urgings and these compulsions that are taking place underneath our physical vessels and underneath the surface of world events. And so I do see that urge, that demand for the soul nature disrupting things under the surface. And certainly, just like with any disease or any unease, ill health, things of that nature, the disease has to come to the surface and demonstrate itself before it can be recognized and dealt with. And that's exactly what's happening right now, in my estimation, is that all the tumultuous activity that's going on, and that would be whether that's earthquake, volcanic, all of these cataclysmic earth changes that are taking place at a very increased fever-pitched scale, in addition to the rapid changes that are taking place worldwide. Communication, again, is widely varied and vast, and we have many opportunities through communication to instantly know what's going on in all parts of the globe, and so we can react accordingly. And so as Arafat dies, we react. As a world, we give a collective sigh, whether that's of relief or of you're saddened by that passing. Nonetheless, it's collectively as humanity we react to issues again because of communication and because of the nature of the soul emerging. I feel that we just have that intuitive kind of spidey sense that's creeping in more so and more so. I even saw a mainstream article about China recently, that there's varied and vast numbers of protests and different uprisings of various degrees that are happening all over the country, that they don't really have the ability to keep check on things. And certainly people might be familiar with the Falun Gong movement that is a peaceful meditation movement that was acknowledged by China at first. But then it became viewed as subversive, and so people were imprisoned for practicing Falun Gong, and they were killed in many cases, tortured. And so anytime there is a threat, a perceived threat to the power structure, and whether that's the legitimate power structure or however you want to term power structure, there are always those in power that feel they are being infringed upon. And they will take drastic action to make sure that their little nests are safe and secure, and that everything they've accumulated for themselves can be held in check and can be held intact, so that they don't have to give up all that they've worked for and stolen in some cases. But nonetheless, this is a very good example, in my estimation, also to see the crackdown of police state activity, to see how Homeland Security and the Patriot Act and these kind of legislations have been used for so many odds and ends issues that have nothing really to do with terror. But since the definition under these Patriot Act and these other legislations have been amended, and when you hear the rhetoric these days, it's terror and crime, and this is another one of the mantras that it largely hits us unconsciously unless we're aware of the doublespeak and the doublethink. And anyone that has not ever read 1984, they might consider delving into that book, because that is the most frightening book that I ever read in my life. And I read it probably about 15 years ago, something like that. And it truly is the most frightening book I've ever read. And the term and the concept of doublespeak, doublethink, all these things hold sway to such a degree that either you buy the party line, hook, line, and sinker, or you see things so glaringly off kilter that, again, you're going to be you might be at a disadvantage. And those are some of the people that are seeking therapy, seeking the end of a gun in their brain so that they can just call it quits because things are just so overwhelming for them. Those are not the courses of action that I recommend at all. I say, stand strong and stick it out, because we're here for a reason. There is a reason why souls gather and amalgamate at any location at any time. And certainly I know here in Austin, we have a fine group of individuals that have gathered together that are very, very fond of freedom and that seek the truth at all cost. And to me, these are the highest ideals. Truth and freedom and love that underlies all that, to me, that is the highest expression without question. And to seek those things, to me, is the highest. It's our birthright, it's our destiny, it's our duty, it's our obligation, our responsibility, all of these things, as we're able to understand and take the mantle, so to speak, and take the helm. So as we're understanding more so, and as the little light bulb goes off, then we are charged with more responsibility. And again, those that find themselves in a position for however by whatever means they find themselves in this position of having some level of understanding, they also have, conversely, some level of responsibility that they have to offer up as well. Certainly there are those that are aware that choose not to act and choose not to get involved, and that will be for them to have to resolve in their own good time at their own rate. And so again, we have people gathering together in locations in various nations, cities around the globe, all kinds of amalgamations of soul energy coming together. And I think Austin is, in my estimation, is the shining example of a group of individuals that, whether they come from the more patriot slant or a more metaphysical slant, that the common goal, more so than anything, is truth, seeking truth, and truth at all costs. There is no religion higher than truth. There is nothing higher than absolute truth. And that is why people say the truth will set you free and things of that nature. But again, the group that is amalgamated in this area that is seeking out truth and that is working to cooperate and share and exchange humbles me, quite frankly, to even be living in this city, not to mention to be somewhat on the periphery of that activity and being somewhat involved. And so we have a real opportunity here to take advantage of the energies that are amalgamating in this area and be cognizant of the larger picture. When we really study a lot of history and we look around us and we see events that seem to be just caving in around us and that we seem to be going to hell in a handbasket in many respects, and there is more and more implementation of authority on the citizenry. It takes place in so-called dictatorships and so-called third world countries, but it more so and more so is rearing its head here in the States. And this is something that, again, it may on the surface seem really detrimental, negative, and something that we should be concerned about, fearful of, perhaps anxious of. But I look at it in a converse sense. I look at it that in the terms that since so much time, energy, effort, and trouble is being used to implement systems of control here and abroad, there has to be a reason why those in power, and the term I use is those that wish to enslave us, why is it that they're so active, and why is it that they're so these actions are just all-consuming. The ideas of controlling and tracking and tracing and just having different different tendrils down into us to control us and keep tabs on us, why that is of such paramount importance in this day and age, and why it is ramping up incrementally. It's exceeding certainly in more ways than I would have ever imagined. These things are getting getting ratcheted up to out of fever pitch levels, and things are getting kind of out of hand in a sense. But this is for me a point of optimism in the sense that if we weren't special as citizens, if we weren't powerful as individuals, and even more so collectively and in groups, it's two or more ask and it's granted, things of that nature. Those sayings have meaning. They carry magnitude, they carry weight, and there is a reason why so much energy and effort is being expended to control the masses right now, and so much legislation, police state activity, surveillance, intimidation. All these things come into play in a really, again, a fast exceeding fashion, because we are indeed that special, and we are coming into the culmination of our true humanness. And I cannot emphasize this enough. If it weren't so that we weren't on the verge, as a humanity, individually certainly in some respects, but as a humanity, of making great strides towards great things, great collective movings forward, there would not be this need to enslave us and to seek to, again, surveil and keep tabs on us, and to keep us constrained and keep us limited in our mobility, our actions, our thinking, our creative input, our critical thinking skills. All of these things that are being short-circuited, and there's some kind of a subterfuge going on at some level that is trying to prevent this mass awakening, this mass consciousness from moving forward into something that will be beneficial for the masses of men on the planet. There's a lot that can be read into this, and certainly even the idea of the occult. The occult is something that oftentimes is looked at as negative. Occult simply meaning hidden, but occult methods and occult science, or esoteric science, is a double-edged sword. It's something that can be used to help or to hinder, depending with our intent. And that has always been the case. What is the intent of individuals? What is the intent of groups? And what is the intent of mass consciousness? Is it going to take on a mob mentality, or is it going to take on some order, some reason, and facilitate something that is, again, more structured, and that takes into consideration individuals and lives of individuals, and takes into consideration sovereignty, free will, free exchange. I mean, these things are very important to humanity. And this is, again, another aspect of our form nature. As we work through various forms, and I very firmly believe in reincarnation, and so that we continue to come back, and this is just a temporary set of clothes we wear, and then once we're through with it and the form no longer is adequate, then we move on to a more proper circumstances, a more proper form that will allow us to continue our spiritual evolution and our understanding, and again, to work towards being more fully human. And I had a good friend talking to me yesterday, and he was telling me, he has a very, very good understanding, from my humble estimation, of the situation as far as globally and historically, and as far as in terms of those that wish to enslave us, and the opportunities that we have as citizens individually and collectively. But what he was telling me was, he's like, I need to get where you are in terms of just not caring about your own physical well-being. And that's something that certainly takes time, but I really encourage people to get over the fear. If you could just imagine the very worst thing that can possibly happen to you, whatever that may be, whether it's burning, being eaten by alligators, being, put into a FEMA camp or something like that. Our form is temporary and transitory. It's only going to be around for a little while. I mean, if we go through our natural life duration, we're going to get 80, 90, 100, maybe 120 on the really outset end. And then we start over again. So to cling to the form, and that fallacy of form, to me, is the biggest drawback to people wanting to people getting involved and wanting and trying to do something to alleviate suffering for humanity. So many times I will listen to like Alex Jones's show and things of that nature, the shows that are more of the patriot and more biting social commentary, political commentary, and so many callers call in and they are afraid. They are afraid to join in. I mean, I'm surprised they even call in, and I'm sure many, many listeners to those programs don't even call in because they're afraid their name's going to get on some kind of list, their phone number's going to get picked up by some government software, and they're going to have some nice gentlemen in dark suits showing up, knocking on their door when they least expect it. That stuff does happen on occasion. You hear cases once in a while, but there aren't nearly as many people in the employ of those that wish to enslave us to actually, factually be able to go around and do any kind of a roundup type thing or anything of that nature with any real effectiveness on a mass scale. And so to think that if you make a call to a radio show or you do something along those lines and you're going to be target number one and they're going to think that you're, this something that needs to be someone that needs to be dealt with, at no, at all costs, kind of, sort of, then I would ask you to reconsider that thinking, because first of all, that's a very prideful thing. That's pride coming out that, oh, I am important enough by just making a call that they're going to come down on me, that I've made such a difference, or whatever the case may be. That to me again, from just the personality nature, it's a prideful kind of thing that can be overcome and alleviated with the proper intent. We just have to reorient ourselves and not be so caught up in our emotional nature. This is what those that wish to enslave us are masters of more so than anything, creating confusion and creating panic, anxiety, uncertainty, and fear and unrest. As those things stay consistently unrestful, more power can be gained and consolidated by just a handful at the expense of the masses, because their energies are diffused and divided too much to be really useful in some cases. So it's a matter of consciously understanding the diffusion and the breaking down of our collective ability to energize, and then to start to do constructive things to counter it. It's like imagining a big wall, and it would take much force to maybe with one blow strike the entire wall down. But if there are many little cracks and water starts to seep through, like a dam type situation or something, and little spaces and little cracks start to appear, then before too long the entire thing is going to crumble under its own weight. And that's exactly what's going on right now. Things are being ramped up to the point that those in control feel like they have the adequate resources and apparatus in place and the control mechanisms in place to be able to successfully keep the masses in check to some level. And this is such a fallacy on the part of those who wish to enslave us. They have the ultimate pride and arrogance, more so than any other individuals on the planet. And so as they stay tucked away in their ivory castles, their ivory towers, and they feel that they have all these minions and all these many foot soldiers out doing their bidding, that they'll be secure in their ivory towers. And that is a great fallacy as well, because these individuals, those that wish to enslave us, they have the highest level of anxiety, insecurity, unrest, fear, anxiety, more so than even the most neurotic citizen in the locked away in the bowels of some mental institution. These individuals truly, truly know fear in a way that the average citizen will never know fear, and they are perpetually enacted and ignited by that fear to put systems into place that constrain us and control us. And so, as we acknowledge these systems, the main thing I would caution folks and ask them to consider is, why the necessity for this magnitude of a police state? Why this magnitude of imposition on our citizenry? Why does it take such drastic, draconian measures to keep us in check? This is because we truly are that powerful. We truly, as individuals and collectively, by virtue of our soul, have infinite, unlimited power at our disposal if we understand how to channel it and project it outwardly. And again, there are different ways to do that, but that is the benefit and the high advantage, in my estimation, of the esoteric sciences, in that these means of controlling the mind and exercising will at an individual or in a group fashion can do much to change things. Now, certainly this exercising of the will is implemented on us through those that wish to enslave us, but we have an opportunity to implement our wills and to merge our wills with the greater will of God and to co-create. And as we co-create and as we understand our responsibility, we can bring in something of rare beauty to this planet. So it's really a matter of time until things start to shift. And certainly, as far as money is concerned too, so many people get up in arms about there not being enough money for this money's going to that, we're being taxed for this and that. in actuality, and as many are well aware, money is printed out of thin air. The fractal reserve lending system allows for money to be created literally from nothing, with no backing, not federal, no reserve. And so by virtue of that, there is plenty of money. And the cities have their comprehensive annual financial reports that, in no uncertain terms, demonstrate clearly that plenty of money is available for all sorts of things. So toll roads, taxation, all these things that are being used to divide and conquer, really, are really at the core, they're fallacies, because there's so much money available that the funds are just not channeled in the right and proper direction. Now, as far as ideas of redistribution of wealth, that doesn't always play out so popularly in the minds of individuals, especially those that are more adherents of a capitalist system, and they feel that if you gained it, you've earned it, and so you deserve to keep it. You deserve to have all this that you've amassed. And I could see merit to that argument, certainly. And my view of it, my intuitive feeling is that the redistribution that will take place will be by groups just making small changes, enough so that there is a natural redistribution rather than some imposed redistribution of wealth, and so that the proper resources will be able to make the rounds as we just, so imagine if there's a train coming directly at you. If you're standing in the middle of the tracks, you're going to likely get hit. But if you just step over just a few inches, the train's going to rush by you. You may catch, some rocks flying up. There may be a big, kind of a wind gust kind of thing coming up or whatever. But you're going to be unfazed. And it's a matter of considering things in those terms. If we want to face the onslaught head on and just take it on in that respect, we might get run over. But if we step to the side and we think about creative, constructive ways in which we can alleviate problems, work to ensure that the proper resources make their way into the proper channels, then much can be done. And we can just ignore the train going on by. It can just go on its own merry way, and we can do our thing and not worry about it so much. Again, there's a lot going on with changes that are restructuring things. Again, whether that's systems of government, religious systems, and whether that's the destruction of form, because whether that's by a hurricane event, a flood, or whether it's through a combat situation like in the Middle East or in this Fallujah onslaught that took place recently, forms are destroyed, but the life is eternal. The spirit inside is eternal, eternal, eternal. It will never, ever secede or subside. And so it will maintain its stability and its integrity, and it will be only strengthened. And so to be overly concerned about the form, I think, is another thing that keeps us distracted. If we can get over our corporality, get over our, our finiteness, and think of ourselves as infinite potential, then we can get a lot more done. And so I think it's up to us, it's incumbent upon us to see what we can do to, once we're aware of the circumstances, don't stick your head in the sand, but think about what you can do constructively to alleviate some of the suffering. It's really up to us as to how we choose to, work through our difficulties. Once we're aware that there are problems, there are things that can be done. It takes intelligent, ordered understanding and a reasoned approach. We have this at our capacity. There are those on this planet that have the answers for all of our problems. They're just not being allowed to implement the solutions because those that wish to enslave us have this entrenched establishment that does not, it's not yielding to this soul impulse that's emerging. And as a soul impulse emerges and becomes overwhelming, then the forms will change in line with the soul intent. And that's just a matter of time until that manifests itself more so. So hang in there, folks. Strap your seatbelt in, because we're in for a rough ride, no doubt. But we can certainly do a lot of things to alleviate suffering, and we can do constructive and creative things in our own backyard, our own areas, with our own abilities to really make a change. So I really implore people out there and encourage people to consider what it is that they can do to help things out. And let me go ahead and grab some calls. Hello, caller, you on the air?
Yo, Corey.
Yeah?
It's Tazio here.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, every week I'm going to be calling you.
Okay, that's great. Hey, I'm glad you're viewing the show still. I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you, though.
All right?
Maybe on our end, though, that I'm not getting it for some reason. But please continue speaking.
Yeah, your program tonight was terrific.
Hey, thank you.
Especially about this fear thing.
Right. That's the biggest thing that holds us back.
That is, that's almost a choice.
It is.
People have to either decide they want to wake up or live in fear. I mean, what's the choice? I mean, what's the problem, folks? I mean, I don't understand why so many people are just kind of sleepwalking through life.
Well, though, I'll give you a little bit of credit. You're a veteran. You were in the Marines, and you made that choice to go in and commit yourself to that service. Not everybody has the gumption. Not everybody has the cojones, or whatever term you want to use, to put themselves in the face of harm and put themselves in harm's way. And it's going to have to take those people really figuring out what's important to them. What's really truly important? Is it your material gains and possessions, or is it something more? Is there something more important that's more eternal that we can work towards? And that's what I would ask people to consider.
Well, I want to tell you, I found the last piece to the puzzle.
Okay.
And I'd like to share it with you, Corey.
You're more than welcome to come to our meeting as well.
What? When's that? When's the next one?
The next one will be this next Wednesday, the 17th, over at Opal's at 8 p.m.
All right, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I would really.
Yeah, I'll see you then. Then we can chat for a bit.
I'd appreciate that.
All right.
That'd be great.
All right, take it easy.
Have a nice evening.
Bye.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye. Hello, caller. You on the air? Hello, caller. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, you're there. Go ahead.
I wanted to know whether, and I'm sorry, I just turned the TV on and I didn't know whether you addressed the issue of religion as it affects us, and the fact that I think that they are, quotes, one of the soldiers. I think that religion brainwashes a lot of people.
Well,
It's tremendous. I think that, if I may say so, I think they're one of the greatest enemies that we have, because I'm not saying all religions. I'm saying some are too heavy, and all you have to do is turn the TV on, and it's overwhelming. I mean, it's saddening. And 99% of the time, if people would wise up and listen, they're asking for money.
True.
Right?
Yes, that is true.
When they're praising God and praising Jesus, at the bottom of the TV screen it says, please send your money.
Yeah, oftentimes that's true, and you have a very solid point, and that's something I didn't really get into in detail, but I agree with you wholeheartedly that religion has been used more than anything else to divide people. I mean, look, right now we have a war in the Middle East. You have the Israeli people and the Palestinian people that have been fighting for a really long time because of the belief system. One believes this, based on something that's not easy to demonstrate. We can't just all get together and say, hey, I told you it was blue. See, it's blue. Okay, it's all blue. We agree. It's something it's not touchable. It's God. It's something that we can't really agree upon because we can't all see it. So we can't all just say, hey, it's right here. Let's all agree on it. It's right here. It's obvious. And so, yes, that's an easy way for people to be manipulated. And I feel
I think United States, we have the greatest problem as far as I'm concerned. I, as a senior citizen,
yes,
looking back in life, and I would say that we are at a orange alert.
As far as the level for the religion problem?
Yes.
That's a very good
definite.
analogy.
Very, very definite. And the people who are going to be affected the most are children.
That's very true. Agreed.
I believe NBC or one of the TV stations had a little girl, I think she was, 3 or 4, that they asked her a question about if somebody didn't belong to her religion, and she says, well, they're going to hell. And we're talking about a baby.
That is the worst belief system ever. The doctrine of hell, to me, is the worst ever because, if you don't believe, you're going to burn.
That's right.
And if God is all loving, if God is all powerful, why does he have to... why does he have to be so vain that, if you don't believe in me, I'm going to burn you forever? That's such absurd thinking that if you really believe that, those are the people I pray for often that have that belief system that if you don't believe these words in this book to the letter, you're going to burn. You know what I mean? That's just, I can't fathom that. And I thank you for your wise insight into that problem because that is a huge problem. But I think that a lot of things are changing in some respects. I see certain church groups that are changing their perspective a bit, and I see a lot of younger people that also are either leaving the churches altogether or they're just coming up with their own brand of spirituality and they're just seeking the truth at their own level. And I think those are the people that are going to be able to find the way and demonstrate some progress for humanity.
Well, I hope so, and I know you're one of them, and Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for taking the time to call. Appreciate your comments. Very insightful. Thank you very much. Yes, religion is one big stumbling block we've got to get over collectively as a race to really make things happen. So be respectful of other people's belief systems, and don't be so quick to condemn others. You know, if you think they're going to go to hell and you're reminding them constantly, you know, oh, you're going to go to hell, how are you going to have a relationship with that person at any level? You know, that's just adversarial from the get-go. I don't understand. Hello, caller, you on the air?
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I just turned to this channel and I was just trying to see what religion are y'all talking about?
All religions, any religion.
Like, you talking
If a
about...
religion is used to control people to the point where they can't think for themselves and they just follow either a book or a set of instructions blindly without thinking it through, there's room for problems there, without question.
So, you don't believe in God?
No, I definitely believe in God very strongly, but I believe that God looks at religions as, in some cases, with a very heavy heart and with sadness. If you can look at God as having sadness, I mean, that's even kind of a questionable thing too. But I think that our Creator endowed us with, you know, equality, and for us not to be respectful of other people is a mistake. That's all I have to say really along those lines. Anything else you care to add?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice evening. Take care. Hello, caller, you on the air? Hello?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Do you have a question?
No.
Comment?
No.
Are you just calling just because you can?
Just say hi and God bless.
Okay. Thanks, I appreciate that. Sounds like a plan to me. That's another religion too. How about Rastafarianism, you know? I mean, is that a bad thing necessarily? I don't know. I think those people tend to get along pretty well. So again, I'm going to wrap up here. I only got a couple more minutes, but you know, okay, any control mechanism, you know, anything, any system, whether that's economic, political, judicial, whatever the case may be, you know, consider what it does for you. Consider what it's the intent. Consider what it's based upon, and consider how it serves you. If it doesn't serve you, if it tends to enslave you, then it's not a good system. Chances are, and I would encourage people to not be so fearful of, again, their lives. You know, to me, life is only worthwhile if you're doing something active to help others, to alleviate the suffering of others, to instruct others, to have some kind of a sharing, exchange, and outreach going on, to help others, to seek freedom, to seek out the truth at all cost. If those are the things that you know, don't mean anything to you, then that's a very, to me, that's a sad thing. But I would just encourage people again to do what you can in your own area to alleviate suffering. Don't be, please do not just be the type of person that's just going to be disgruntled and upset, but actually try to do something to change your situation if you can at all possible. Just a word of advice. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to view. I want to remind folks to check out Jeff Contreras' Therefore I Am every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Channel 16. I want to thank my producer, Chris, for commanding the helm of the Starship Esoterica. We are here every Thursday, Channel 11, 8 to 9 p.m. Thanks, Austin. Take care.